My name's Alicia. I'm one of the sales managers at Securo. I've been with the company for 6 years, just over 6 years, and recently got promoted to this role after basically starting from the ground and moving up. I was offered to do this course, basically, no strings attached, as a way to develop further within myself and to become the leader I want to be. I grabbed the opportunity with both hands. To be perfectly fair, when looking into the program, I thought, I wasn't too sure where I wanted to start with my development. I'm a person that does come across quite confident. At least I've been told that by lots of different people. And I'm pretty secure in how I do things and my capacity to take information in. What really stuck with me though around this program is taking a chance on something, doing something outside my comfort zone, because that's normally where I do falter. I tend to stay within my comfort zone. So moving outside of that, and also it focusing a lot of women in leadership as well. I found that to be a draw, because there's not many opportunities for women to just be around other women in similar roles but different backgrounds. So that kind of grabbed my curiosity. I suppose learning to open up a bit more, and I suppose just be me more, be more comfortable in my own shell, or get out of my shell, I suppose you'd say. What do I say?
Or your own skin or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Absolutely. That's probably the most appropriate way of saying it. Be more comfortable in my own skin and just truly being me, and being me is enough. Being me is fantastic. I don't need to be anything or anyone else. And having that just fed back to you as well, and I suppose diving into it more to really understand the nuances of what I was feeling and thinking I had to do, and just kind of tearing that away and be like, no, what do you do? What are you doing? Because that's where the power lies. More insight into myself. There were definitely many times in the program where I opened myself up to vulnerability, which is not something I do often and not something I find easy. But just the relationships you gain with the other people on the program, and I suppose how comfortable you do feel just being out there, just opening up and being vulnerable, and the things that I learned from just being vulnerable for once in a blue moon for me, allowed me to learn a lot of things I didn't realize existed, nuances such as taking over responsibility. Now it seems like the most obvious thing in the world that I do that. But at the time I had no idea. So that's been a fundamental and pivotal point for me, learning that about myself. Even if that was the only thing I learned, life-changing. Be the best I can be. I learned through the program a little bit more about my personality, and that seems to be something that I always gravitate towards. But being the best I can be was done, but not in the way I could have guessed. I think the approach to the program is so different in the best possible way. It's not something I've ever, you kind of start off a bit skeptical about these things that have been done and time and time again by multiple different people claiming to do it differently, and it's all the same. Whereas this program, it did it so differently. It's not your average kind of leadership program. It's who do you want to be? What kind of leader do you want to be? Not, oh, this is the nirvana of being a leader and this is how you get there. It's no, what works for you? What's your superpower? So going along that journey was unexpected. And I got the development I was hoping for, but never in a way I was expecting to get it. we don't take enough time in this day and age, especially, you know, when you're, whether that be climbing the corporate ladder or whatever it is that you want to do, we do not take enough time to reflect back on ourselves, to actually ask, why are we doing something? Is it benefiting me? And what do I actually want from this? We get very much stuck in a rat race that, you know, you forget that there's an out if you really need to, but also, why aren't you making the rat race work for you? I'm going to say empowered. I know that seems like that's been done to death, but it's true. I suppose empowered that there's different ways of doing things, and that's such an awesome thing to know and discover, because it opens up your eyes for more possibilities, different ways of doing things, different ways of being. And finding the way that best suits you. You know, to dig, trying to think of an example. Best example is obviously being in this new role, and it hasn't been done before in my company, right? We're truly blazing a trail and figuring things out as we go. And this program helped give me the confidence that, you know, mistakes can be made, but also I have the tools I need to get where I need to go. And, you know, I can communicate the things I need. I've already said I can make mistakes, but yeah, I can communicate what I need, where I need things to go, and also just back myself knowing what I know and knowing that I have the ability. But also I have a really unique position just based on where I've come from, and just trusting in that, and allowing my colleagues already trust me, but just being okay with their trust, not feeling like I have to go over the top and above and beyond and prove myself and burn myself out, but just keep doing what I know to do. And it's okay.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And how has it, you mentioned about it's good to make mistakes, or it's fine to make mistakes. What was the learning in that for you?
Oh, that's a vulnerability piece right there. Making mistakes is very hard for me to do. You know, it's got the capacity to just tear me apart. And I think that's what I learned a lot about myself, and really diving into who I am and what makes me tick, what makes me, you know, move as well. And one of those things is that vulnerability was definitely a sticking point for me. And so being okay with making mistakes is a very difficult thing for me to accept. And I'm now on that journey to just accepting it. It's not a matter of overnight it's changing or I'm changing. That's not what I'm trying to say here, nor is that probably the best way of doing it. But being aware of that, I wouldn't say gap, but just being aware that that's a nuance in me, and now I have the capacity to actually work on it because I can see it now.
Yeah, absolutely. The awareness opened up that opportunity for you. And here you are, I mean, even just in this, doing this video testimonial, sharing about your vulnerability is, again, another example of you being, it's another example of you being vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
It's incredible. So what were you experiencing previously that has been alleviated?
Going back to that over responsibility piece, I'm a bit of a stress head. I take on a lot of responsibility for mainly my family, but also my work family as well, making sure that I take a lot of things on personally and don't tend to ask for help and think that I have to do everything. Understanding now what that is, understanding that that's a part of what I do, and that may have been learnt from past experiences, or, you know, even back as far back as being a kid. It starts to tick in my brain all the decisions I've made, or all the things that I've done, because that's been a sticking point for me. And taking over responsibility, it does lead to a lot of stress and burnout. And me not having the capacity to do what I want to do, or to achieve what I want to achieve, because I'm working hard not necessarily smarter.
Yeah.
So understanding that about myself is just not just in my career, but very much so in my personal life. It's fundamentally changed the way I live day to day.
Yeah. And what's the benefit of that for you?
Less stress. You know, having a little one, and you know, just the stresses that life can throw at you, right? It takes a toll on all of us. We all have our battles that we're fighting, whether that be internally, whether that be externally, it doesn't really matter, you know, but finding the tools or discovering, you know, a weapon in a sense, to kind of help combat that has been sensational. So, you know, when I find that I'm overly stressing about something, I kind of just take a second to stop and think, wait, is this my problem? Like, is this my responsibility? No, I need to trust, you know, my colleague or my partner or my friend can handle that. I can't, nor should I, do everything. It's not good for me, and it's not good for them either. They have their own, they have capacity. I can trust them. I can let them go. I can let them make their own mistakes. It's all learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when we jump in sometimes and try and control different situations that aren't ours, we're doing a disservice to the person that it comes from a good place. We want to help, but we're doing them a disservice because we don't let them have that learning for themselves.
Absolutely. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. That's one of the things I learned is by taking over responsibility, I'm doing my colleague or my partner a disservice because they don't have that opportunity. They don't have that space to think, to learn, because I'm just doing everything. It's not sustainable. It's not scalable in a career sense or life.
Absolutely. Amazing. So what were the stakes for you, Alicia? Like, if you stayed where you were before the program, what would the consequence be for you?
If I didn't do this program, the consequence would be burnout. Leaves an open question in your mind of why am I doing these things? You know, you can be so sure about your path and trajectory, but if you're constantly stressed and burnt out, you're going to get to a point where like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I think hearing the stories and the positions of the other people in the program as well was really eye-opening. You know, there were fantastic women of all different backgrounds, of all different at all different points in their career, and hearing that even some of them were having the same struggles that I was having, even, you know, decades into a similar role or a different role or higher or whatever it might be. There's all that, it all comes back to some fundamental, what am I trying to say here? Fundamental points about how you deal with things in yourself. So if I hadn't done this program, I don't think I would have the capacity to find sustainability in myself. I think doing the program, I've got a more sustainable way of being, which is only going to create exponential growth for myself in career and personal life. And I really want to point out the personal life thing, because that's just fundamental change there, like for the best.
Amazing. I love that. I totally just got goosebumps. Okay, so Why Mind Matrix? What's different about this program?
It's real. What's different about this program is that it's just real people in real situations, and it's tailored in a way that no matter your age, no matter where you are in your career, no matter the roadblocks you're finding, this is tailored around that, because it's about unpicking you, not following a 5-step course of how to be the best leader you can be. It's how to be the best you can be, and why do you want to be that, and you know, diving into that and diving into the person themselves, not just this external thing that they're going after is what's fundamentally different about this program.
Yeah, rather than telling you this is how you have to lead and trying to mold everyone to be that type of leader that's external, like it's an idea that somebody else has. It's about how do you find you and lead from that place, your most authentic self.
And actually, that's the word. The program is authentic. It's about, I'm just trying to think of some of the words. It's about you, and it's about putting a mirror up to yourself and just understanding yourself, your wants, your needs, your roadblocks. Once you have that power, you can do whatever you want with it. If you're considering joining this program, I would say what's stopping you. Take a leap. I did. And I took a leap when I thought, I've kind of got things covered for now. I don't need to do too much. But just the 2-3 things I learned has fundamentally changed me for the better. There's still a journey to go on, but seeing it in front of me and understanding the obstacles, understanding myself, things get a hell of a lot easier. Yeah, I found through the program that I catch things now. The things that, the tidbits I learnt that were just fundamental, and I wouldn't have had the ability to have found that out before, because I didn't have the time to do it, or I suppose, someone who was willing to dive that deep to really get to, the root cause of a lot of just the decisions I made and the things that I do. By putting it, it's self-coaching. It's something happens and you just, instead of reacting, you kind of stop for a moment, you catch it and you're like, what do I need to do here? Like, just being more aware of the situation instead of constantly just reacting and reacting and reacting. It's being proactive instead of reactive. Yeah, I mean, the journey through the program, originally I started out not knowing really what to expect. I wasn't completely convinced that it was something I needed to do at this stage of my career. And then kind of going through the program step by step, even something that I thought I was confident on, there was still room for improvement. And it wasn't in your traditional sense of, you didn't tick this box. It was, well, no, okay, let's just take a self-centric view of why you're doing that. How do you do that? Even something that I may excel at, it was kind of like, okay, why do you excel at that? What is it? How can you use that power in other areas? That was really unique for me. It was taking away the boxes and fundamentally understanding your superpower, what makes you tick, and owning it and being able to control that and use it how you want to, and understanding how you want to use that as well. My hesitations was, my hesitation around joining the program was that it was just going to be another boring program. I've done them in the past, and you get, a little workbook that you have to work through around exercises that, just don't make sense. Or it just being a waste of time. You are committing, a chunk of time every week, right? And we're all busy, absolutely busy. So that was a fear as well, especially coming into a new role. I was like, do I have time for this? I mean, I have to keep going, right? I have to go put 110% into this new role. I don't really have time for this. And I can happily say I was wrong. Putting the time in, the things that I learned only helped me be better at what I was doing week to week, day to day. And then the overall learnings from the program, just, I can take that with me for decades to come. Working with Rima as my coach, she challenged me, to say the least, which honestly, I think I needed, especially coming into this, thinking that, I already ticked a lot of boxes in my mind. I didn't really know how this could potentially help me. I was definitely challenged and had challenged to dive deeper and deeper into myself and find those vulnerabilities that I really didn't want to go through. But in doing so and just letting the process happen, got so much more out of it, so much more.
Cool. What about the connections made and the lessons learned through others in the program?
The connections made and the lessons from the others in the program, that's just brings a smile to me. Such amazing people in the program, and all such different personalities, different walks of life, different points of their career. It, especially for someone, really starting off on their leadership journey in their career, it was so good to just hear their stories. I learned so much about all of them. Many themes seem to go across all of us, no matter our age or background, which was reassuring. It allowed you to, I suppose it's one of the reasons that helped me be vulnerable, is just I felt so supported by everyone there. And I felt like I could just open up, whatever that meant for the session, but I felt I could truly just be my authentic self and there was no judgment and you just were heard.
Yeah, amazing. So what was the outcome, result, and benefit that you got from participating in the program?
The outcome, result, and benefit for participating in the program, there's a few. Fundamentally, just understanding more about myself, diving into my personality and my nuances there helps me to understand why I make certain decisions and how I even appear to others. I think just that was really helpful, because you're in your head so much at the time. It's sometimes nice to kind of just get that feedback of how you seem, whether I might feel like I'm being vulnerable or not very confident in a certain sense, being told, well, this is how it looks on the other side. Being challenged was definitely something I need. I don't feel like I'm challenged enough by people sometimes, which helped me. I'm just trying to think of something different to say. Being challenged is what I needed and helped me open up, be vulnerable, but also understand those kinks in my armor, I suppose, and what that would mean for the decisions I made and how I handled things and how I reacted to things. It allowed me to be more proactive in my approaches because I already knew that those, I'm not going to say weaknesses, but those parts of me were there and that I could work with them and not feel like I'm working against myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's a big part of it is just getting out of your own way, but realizing first how you're actually getting in your way to start with.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I suppose I was getting in my own way and I didn't realize I was. So having that alleviated from me, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, amazing. So if I just dig into that a little bit deeper, how do those benefits help you to succeed? Like, how do you show up differently now? What are the positives?
Yeah, some of the benefits and positives that I found from this program is by understanding more about myself, by understanding how I react to things, my vulnerabilities, my strengths, understanding myself more. And also it allows me to just stop for a moment and evaluate a situation before potentially reacting. And I think in a lot of cases, that's where a lot of exhaustion and burnout can come from, is we're just reacting. We're not evaluating things appropriately. We're not working smarter, we're working harder. At least I was. So by stopping and taking a breath, I have time to think, evaluate, come to a decision or a way of reacting to a person or a thing or an event better. And just reacting a little bit better each time, that accumulates, and that's where the exponential growth comes.
Absolutely. Is there a specific example that comes to mind that you would be open to sharing?
Gosh, I gotta think. Example. Yeah, I mean, I suppose a specific example would be having a little one and my partner doing a lot of the caring and whatnot. Going to work was a hard thing. Half my brain was always, if not more, was always with them. So being able to just understand that I was doing what I do in terms of taking over responsibility, I could just stop myself for a moment. You know, my partner is completely capable. I can do this, she can do that. We'll be okay. And that freedom of letting go has given me so much more capacity to do the best I can do with the role that I have. And that's really freeing. I don't have to do everything. I shouldn't be doing everything. That is so freeing, especially in terms for me. It's just changed the game for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do other people, or have you heard feedback from other people in your world, your partner or your manager or like your work colleagues? What feedback have they given you about how you're showing up differently?
The kind of feedback I've been getting about how I show up differently is definitely having better focus. Focusing on the things that are going to move the dial, both at work and both personally, and just crushing that. In the program, one of the things we learned was, we can get so caught up in this rat race, or just, reacting to people getting our attention and needing things from us. But sometimes it's better to just write it down, 3 things, 5 things a day that you want to achieve out of that day. And if those are done, you've done well. It's just having that kind of focus on things moves the dial more in whatever capacity that the dial needed to be moved.
Yeah, totally. I think sometimes multitasking is way overrated because we just get so busy, especially in this kind of instant gratification world, and like the phone's pinging and your instant chats pinging and your emails going and the phone's ringing, and you just need to get really intentional about what you want to achieve, and that makes all the difference.
But that's a good point, being intentional with what you're doing. But for me, being okay with not doing everything. That's not my role.
Yeah, that is a big one, right? Like that hits on kind of the perfectionism and the over responsibility, and just being okay with what you have done and not having to be everything to everyone.
Exactly. And I've got this complex of always, that competitiveness, that always having to be the best and always being appropriate and doing well and, keep climbing kind of thing. And I suppose that's not going to change. I don't need it to, but understanding that, being aware that that's not everything, being aware that I'm like that alleviates me a lot of the time, because it's kind of just understanding myself. It's like, of course I reacted like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's just about you can still be competitive and you can still achieve and do all the things that you want to do. Just do it in a healthy manner for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. How do you lead yourself differently post-program?
Lead myself. Oh, how do I lead myself differently post-program? Lead myself differently post-program. How do I lead myself post-program? I would say it's not always having to be the leader. I very naturally get put in that role, whether that be in personal life or professional, in group settings. But a lot of the time I do like to just sit back and watch, and this has allowed me to be okay with that. That is actually going to move the dial for me a lot more. It's about I always kind of say this, it's about you either win or you learn. There is no losing, is the approach that I take in terms of leading myself.
Amazing. That was super powerful. Again, I just got the goosebumps. Quote from Alicia. All right. And then I guess the last question I've got for you is, what benefits would an organization have or get from sending employees to a program like this?
The benefits, anyone could get out of this program, especially an organization sending their employees to it, is you're getting the best out of your team. You're helping them learn to be their best, and that only benefits everyone. It's not about just being the best at their role, it's being their best self, which has much more cascading benefits than just getting them to be their best in that particular role. We evolve. This program is about you, so you can evolve as you go throughout your career.
Yeah, incredible. Anything else that you want to add about the program, about any aspect of the program, anything that we haven't touched on?
Nothing's coming to mind, but the question's a good prompting.
Yeah, and I know it's a little bit repetitive in there, but I think we've got some really great sound bites in that, so I can hit pause.